Vanguard, Generation Zero, echoes of Nyx. Vesper stared at the girl in the mirror. The long, silvery gray hair cascaded over her shoulders, a color as natural to her as breathing. It was a ghost, a reminder of a life that was stolen. With cold, steady hands, she picked up the bowl of black dye. "No more," she whispered, her voice devoid of emotion. The first black streak she painted felt like a vow. Miles away, in a room bathed in the soft glow of a nightlight, a man stood over a crib. His short, spiky blonde hair was a stark silhouette, his face completely hidden in shadow. He reached a hand down, his fingers gently tracing the edge of the blanket where a tiny baby slept peacefully. A single guttural sound escaped his lips, a mix of a name and a sob. The dye was acrid, staining the porcelain sink as black as her resolve. Vesper worked with a grim focus, transforming her hair, burying the girl she had been. Each black strand was a promise, a vow. She would never be helpless again. She would be strong enough to protect everyone. She worked in silence, the chemical smell filling the small bathroom. Lock by lock, the silver vanished, consumed by the night-black dye. It was an armor, a disguise. When she was done, she stared at her new reflection. The girl with the ghost hair was gone. In her place was a stranger with eyes that held a storm and hair as black as a starless sky. The training room was her sanctuary and her crucible. Day after day, Vesper pushed her body to its limits. The clang of weights, the thud of her fists against the punching bag, the sharp intake of breath, these were the sounds that drowned out the memory of the silent white light. Days turned into weeks. Vesper's training became her entire world. She moved faster, hit harder, and pushed her psionic abilities to the breaking point. She shattered simulations, outmaneuvered combat drones, and mastered techniques that even seasoned agents struggled with. The girl was gone. A weapon was being forged. Dawn broke over the Vanguard training facility. In the center of the gravity chamber, Vesper stood, her new black hair tied back. "Again," she grunted, sweat beading on her forehead. Metal plates, each weighing a ton, floated around her, held aloft by her sheer force of will. The air crackled with her power. "Your control is slipping, Vesper." Kaito, her trainer, called from the observation deck. "Focus. Don't let your anger fuel you. Let your purpose guide you." Vesper screamed, a raw, wounded sound, and the plates around her buckled and warped under the sudden surge of her power. In that quiet room, the man sank to his knees beside the crib. The baby stirred, making a soft cooing sound. The man's shoulders shook, but he made no noise. His hidden face was a mask of grief, so profound it seemed to absorb the very light around him. He was a black hole of sorrow, orbiting a tiny, sleeping star. Director Elias Thorne watched from the shadows of the observation hall, his face etched with a familiar pain. He saw the power she wielded, the cold fire in her eyes. He saw the girl she was forcing herself to become, and it was breaking his heart. "You're pushing yourself too hard," Elias said, his voice echoing in the cavernous room. Vesper didn't stop, her movements becoming faster, more frantic. "It's not enough," she grunted, landing a flurry of blows. "It will never be enough, until I can make sure no one ever gets erased again." Vesper finally stopped, her chest heaving, her knuckles raw. She looked at Elias, her black hair plastered to her forehead. "You blame me," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "For what happened to her." It wasn't a question. Elias's gaze softened, the hard lines of the commander melting away to reveal the man who had lost a friend. "No, Vesper," he said, his voice thick with an old, familiar grief. "I blame myself." In the silence that followed, two broken people stood worlds apart, bound by a single, echoing loss. Later that night, alone in his office, Elias pulled out a small, holographic projector. He activated it, and the image of a woman with a radiant smile and long, silvery gray hair flickered to life. "Nix," he whispered, his voice thick with unshed tears. "She looks just like you." He traced the hologram's cheek with a trembling finger. The dam of his composure finally broke. A single tear escaped, then another, until quiet, racking sobs filled the lonely office. He wept for the woman he had lost, and for the child who was now losing herself to the shadows.